So, what is so trivial to us now? Booking a flight, showing up to the airport, taking off, and landing in our destination. It's only possible because of the people that came up with the airplane. So, today I'm going to be talking about the history of aviation, how airplanes developed into something that we use all the time. So, although the idea of the airplane was coined by George Cayley, the Wright brothers brought the idea to life. And since then, the airplane has been used for a ton of things now, all the time. So, we're going to first discuss, the beginning, George Cayley, what he drew and how that was revolutionary. And then a couple other things, like gliders and stuff like that. And then that's going to lead to the Wright brothers. And then there's going to be some competition going on that I'm going to talk about between three people. And that's going to lead to some advancements in aviation. And then we're going to discuss propulsion because ultimately a plane can only go as fast as its engine will allow. And then this plane right here is the P-38 Lightning. It's my favorite plane. So first of all, the early start of aviation. So even before Cayley, people for centuries thought that in order to fly, we had to flap our wings like a bird. Um, so wings produce lift, right? But they also thought that we had to flap them to induce propulsion. And the reason that George Cayley was like super revolutionary or whatever is that he was the first person to come up with the idea that wings will stay the same. They're going to be fixed. They're going to be flat, and they're only going to be used for lift. And that there's going to be a separate object or something on the plane that's going to propel it forward. So he drew this on a disc or whatever in 1799. You can see the date right there. But yeah, so that was like a whole big thing. And then after that, people came up with a bunch of other ideas. So Otto Lilienthal, I think is how you say it. He made a glider in 1894 so people could glide. So they had a fixed wing, but no propulsion. And then people like Du Temple could make something that had propulsion and would take off, but it was assisted. And it was only the Wright brothers who were the first to fly a plane with a powered, no assistance, went off by itself, take off December 17th, 1903. And it flew for a couple hundred feet for 12 seconds. So that was the first documented like takeoff flight without help. And that was so awesome because, all these other years, it's either been no propulsion whatsoever or they needed a little help. They needed a little bit of assistance. So after that, so the Wright brothers, right? They did their thing. But there were also other people trying to, it's competition, you take some ideas or whatever. So there was this competitive triangle between the Wright brothers, Samuel Langley, and Glenn Curtiss. So it starts off with Glenn Curtiss. He built the June bug, and that is on the bottom right. And it flew over a kilometer. It was like the first public flight that was over a kilometer. But the big thing was that he was supposedly stole ideas from the Wright brothers. Anyway, they bickered. They butted heads a lot. And then after that, Langley built the aerodrome. It was terrible. It like broke all the time. It wouldn't fly. The only reason it did fly was because of Curtiss. I think there was like some number, like 79 or 80 modifications on it. And the only reason it could fly was because of Curtiss. But the aerodrome is put into a museum right now. I can't remember which, but it says, first free flight, Langley, no mention of Curtiss. So there's some butting heads for that. But basically what I'm getting at is that all these three people are fighting right now in this early period of aviation, but because of the competition and like the fight for ideas or whatever, the fight for advancement, that led them to like come up with these things. So the bickering, kind of sucks, but it led to advancements. So that's pretty cool. However, they're only going to go as fast as the engines will allow them. So planes are dependent not just on the wings and the structure, but of course the engine. So if you look at the graph, it's got the year on the bottom and then the speed on the y-axis. And we're going, as the years progress, we're going higher, we're going faster, going a lot faster. The Bell X1 was the first to break the sound barrier, and then you go up that line, you get to like rocket power stuff. So basically the goal is higher and faster, or faster and higher. We develop more engines, better engines, more powerful engines that could be ingrained, within the plane, and that let us go a lot faster. But since then, since about like 1970, we haven't really worried about that as much anymore because we already, we left the Earth, you know what I mean? Like we reached Earth's escape velocity, so we went really, really fast. So we don't have to worry about it as much. Right now, we're optimizing lower speeds, like commercial aircraft. We're optimizing stuff like that. The Boeing stuff going around, the Boeing planes breaking or whatever, that's a problem that needs to be fixed. And then just air combat, optimizing stuff like that. But yeah, so that's where we are present day. And that all started way back when George Bailey drew that fixed wing design on a disc, on a rock or something. And then a couple other people worked with the gliders, worked with the assisted takeoff, and then the Wright brothers finally got their plane to actually take off without any help. But then that led to other people trying to take those ideas and trying to use those ideas, the competitive triangle that led to more advancements. And then ultimately, the improvements of engines and stuff like that, made us go to space. But, this has been centuries in the making. This all started with mythical tales. Like the guy that like flies to the sun and then the wax melts, like that's flying birds, and the ornithopters that I think Da Vinci was trying to build. And I think he built a couple, but they never worked. But they were like flapping your wings, they didn't work. So, maybe the next time you go on an airplane or you're traveling with your family or something, you think about how, this is all possible now, but this has been centuries in the making. And people have been thinking about this for centuries. And we're lucky enough to live in a time where only now is it possible and almost easy. It's so widespread. But yeah, thank you for listening.